and welcome to my review of Pluto Volume 3. This is just very quickly, this is Naoki Urasawa, who made Monster and 20th Century Boys and Master Keaton. He is doing a remake of an Astro Boy story and turning it into more of a serious adult, not political, detective thriller, and kind of tweaking the characters a bit for his own personal style. And he's doing this 8-volume manga. This is again volume 3. The basic setup is that someone or something is trying to kill the 7 most powerful robots in the world. Several are now dead as of volume 3. And we now get the introduction of some new characters. This volume is basically establishing a lot of stuff, laying foundation. And so we get introduced to more characters and more subplots. Particularly we get introduced to Uran. Whoops. Which, if you know Astro, you know that's Astro Boy's little sister. She's a robot. And of course in this world, because the more advanced you are, the more realistic you are, she looks just like a little girl. And in the original Astro, she has this kind of sensitivity to people. She's just very sensitive to people and their emotions. In this, that's turned into essentially a superpower. She can feel fear from miles away. She just has this incredible sensitivity to human and animal emotions, which makes her much more of a complicated kind of a plot element, because she's constantly running off to try to solve things. And when she sees a problem, she can't, she sees suffering, she just feels this compulsion to deal with it. Which for a little girl, other things get really, really complicated. So Astro is often going off to not just rescue her, but also just sort of take care of her and keep her from causing too much trouble. So you get Uran in here. You also get Hercules, who we saw in previous volumes. He's one of the robots being targeted, as well as Epsilon, the Bishonen of the story. There's a homeless robot that Uran gets involved in, who is quite interesting. There's very complicated and lots of psychological stuff going on in there. Just very mysterious. And most of the time we spend with an organization called the KR. They're this organization that's introduced here that is anti-robot, or more accurately, they're essentially the Ku Klux Klan, but against robots. They believe robots should be relegated to just slave status, they shouldn't have rights, anything like that. Very simple, obvious kind of organization. And there's a new character who is involved in the organization and has particular issues that he's working with, and those seem to possibly lead back to Gesicht, the detective main character of the story. Although in this volume there's not much time spent with Gesicht because of all the foundation of stuff and showing what the KR are, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, and then just their danger in general in the world. So this is not the volume to start reading the Pluto series with. This lays a lot of groundwork, and it's interesting groundwork. You get a little bit more details with Gesicht and some of the characters and some of the other plot lines going on. But so many in almost any movie or novel, there comes that point where you just kind of have to say, okay, here's why the bad guys are trying to do what they're trying to do. Here's why the good guy became a good guy. There's just a lot of this groundwork you have to set up so that you can pay that off later, and so you can understand why characters make the choices they make later in the story and what those choices mean to those characters. Hayao Miyazaki is kind of famous for saying that he realized that in his action stories you can make either three-dimensional villains, which means you spend half of the movie establishing their why they are doing what they're doing, or you make them Nazis. You kind of can't do a middle road. In order to make them complex, you have to do this establishment. So we're doing this establishing stuff here for payoff down the road. And like I said, it's all interesting, it's all cool, and we get some fun characters in here. And if you're reading Pluto by this point, this is more good stuff.